Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're taking a look at some cards trending on the market because these cards are believed to be useful in the future. I feel like recently we have had a bunch of really cool new support announced, including cards for DDD, Dark Magician, and Heroes. We do also have a bunch of really big sets coming out, with Duelist Advance, Battles of Legend, and Justice Hunters all coming out this summer, and because of that we're seeing a ton of early buyouts as players get ready for these upcoming formats. Let's get started. Kicking things off, let's take a look at a couple of DDD cards, starting with DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh. So the DDD archetype is confirmed to be getting support in the upcoming core set called Doom of Dimensions, which should come out right after Duelist Advance. I believe that they're actually getting like 8 or 9 new cards, which is quite a bit, and the new support actually looks pretty solid and should allow them to end on more than just their typical end board of a Primal Being token. Gilgamesh is a Link 2 that's only useful for the deck, but it has a really powerful effect where on summon, you lock yourself into DD monsters, but then you can place 2 DD Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your Pendulum zones. Obviously this is huge because you can use the effects of those monsters, and it also sets you up right away for a Pendulum summon, which is really awesome. Now, I'm definitely not big brain enough to play the DDD strategy, and I don't really feel like buying a spreadsheet to learn it, but from the replays and such that I've seen running around online, it seems that most players are choosing to run Gilgamesh at 3 copies in the extra deck. That said, Gilgamesh has just 1 printing from back in Dual Overload. Now, it wasn't a short print or anything in that set, but Dual Overload came out back in 2020, so it has been a full 5 years since people were actually opening packs and actively pulling the card, so this is probably going to be a bit more difficult to find at your locals. This card was basically bulk before, so if you've been playing for a few years, this is a good card to try to dig up out of your hollow bulk. Next up, let's take a look at DD Swirl Slime. So Swirl Slime actually used to be a really important starter card for the DDD strategy before. If this card is in your hand, you could activate its effect to fusion summon a DDD fusion monster using monsters from your hand, including this card. This was really good because it started off your combo, but it also allowed you to use this card's graveyard effect, where you banish it to special summon another DD monster from your hand. So I believe that before this card was generally played at 3, but from what I've seen this past week, it seems that a lot of the DDD builds that people have been experimenting online with the new support have actually chosen to cut this card down to 1, since they just have so many more different options now available to them. With this card, it has a ton of different low rarity printings, so the commons are really easy to find. This was an ultra in Ghost from the past 2, and then it was a super in an OTS tournament pack, so very accessible if you just want to play the card. However, the card's one difficult to find printing is as a QCR from Quarter Century Stampede. This card was one of the more forgettable QCRs from that nostalgia pool, since no one ever really looks back and thinks, hey, I want to play like DDD in a Time Wizard format, so this card was actually only a few dollars, but it has now shot all the way up to $20 per copy. Fortunately, this card does look to just be a one of, so even if you want to bling out your deck, you don't need too many copies. I would also actually definitely recommend looking at the super rares, since they're still under $1 each and they're more likely to match the rarities of the other cards from the strategy, especially keeping in mind that Doom of Dimensions won't contain any QCRs at all, so your Swirl Slime being the one QCR might make it look out of place. Next up, let's take a look at Mask Change. So there were several new hero cards revealed recently in the Tactical Tri-Pack, which is a side set over in the OCG that's meant to provide support for existing archetypes. I believe that generally, masked heroes were only extra deck monsters that were accessible via Mask Change, but they now get a couple of main deck cards, including a level 7 called Masked Hero Furnace that actually allows you to search for Mask Change from your deck without having to find a way to special summon Shadow Mist. This is a really cool new line for hero decks who will be able to hopefully access Darklaw a little bit more consistently, though to be fair, it probably still won't be enough to make any hero variants a top tier meta threat. Mask Change does have quite a few different printings, including some Duelist League printings that are quite difficult to find, and then it was an Astral Pack 1 Super that I really like as well. However, the one we're talking about here is the QCR that is also from Quarter Century Stampede. This card wasn't a cheap QCR at any point by any means. It's been pretty steadily around $30 since its release. However, when the hero support was first revealed, this card literally disappeared off of TCG Player for a little bit there, and you would have had to pay like $150 to $200 for a single copy. Fortunately, the price has settled back down quickly as the card got relisted back onto the market, and it's now settled at around $50 to $55 per copy. Of course, a lot of hero players want to play everything in the highest possible rarity, so these should definitely be included in your trade binders before you head to your locals. So one other hero related card for today, we have Contrast Hero Chaos. So Chaos is probably one of the more forgettable hero monsters that's ever been printed. It requires 2 masked heroes to make, and you have to actually fuse them instead of just contact fusing them away. Now obviously before, with masked heroes being all from the extra deck, this card wasn't realistic to bring out at all. Now, however, that there are actual main deck masked heroes, this card is theoretically easier to bring out, though I'm not sure exactly how much usage it's going to actually see. Basically, it is an interruption, allowing you to negate 1 face-up card on the field until the end of the turn during either player's turn, which actually isn't that bad. I know that in general, heroes don't have access to many negates, so this card could be a really cool piece of their end board. It's just that from my experience playing against heroes, it seems more common for them to end on something like Dark Law and Plasma instead, so I don't know how well this card is going to fit into the deck's strategy or main lines of play. Now, Contrast Hero Chaos has just 1 ultra rare printing from the Hero Strike structure deck. That deck is actually quite old, but the thing is that those structure decks were actually re-waved multiple times over the past few years, probably because heroes are such an iconic archetype. Because of that, Contrast Hero Chaos is only going to cost you about $2 to $3 despite having just the 1 printing. It's definitely a cute card. I think it's worth digging up out of your holo bulk if you happen to know that you have them, but given the sheer quantities of these that are probably out there on the market, I wouldn't want to hold on to too many copies. Moving on to some other things, the next card I have here is Ready Fusion. So this card is sort of like a replacement for Instant Fusion, which is limited to 1, but probably not quite as good. So while Instant Fusion could summon any level 5 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, Ready Fusion can special summon 1 level 6 or lower, but it has to be a non-effect monster. On one hand, having access to the level 6s is cool, but this card has always just been viewed as being not as strong as Instant Fusion because you can't summon really strong options like Millenniumize Restrict. This card literally just brings out material for you to use as a material for a Synchro, Link, Xyz Summon, whatever. However, it seems that Ready Fusion has gotten a bit of attention recently. From what I've been told, players are talking about using this card in Draco Tail, though I don't actually know exactly how it is that the card fits into the deck. The Draco Tail fusions themselves require the generic material to be from your hand, so maybe you could use just the body to fusion something like a Magnum the Reliever and then put Ready Fusion back to the bottom of the deck and draw a card. That's just me sort of speculating here. Anyways, what we care about is that Ready Fusion has 2 different secret rare printings, originally from Dawn of Majesty, and then it got a reprint in the tins. They're around the same price, with the reprints coming in at $5 each and the originals coming in at $7. This is definitely a card that a lot of players overlooked once that tin reprint dropped because it already wasn't a particularly good or useful card, and then it just got even more accessible with that tin reprint. So I'm certain that a bunch of you guys have this card just sitting around in your holo bulk. Definitely something that's worth trying to dig out and probably offload just in case the card does see another reprint in Justice Hunters itself. Next up is another card for Draco Tail that I've had my eye on for a little while here. We have Mysterion the Dragon Crown. Now this card is a Spellcaster fusion that requires a Spellcaster and Dragon to make, and it just so happens that those are the 2 types that the Draco Tail theme is composed of. This card has a really weirdly worded effect. Basically, it doesn't negate a special summon, but if your opponent activates an effect of a monster that special summons itself or another monster of the same type, then it's like in response to the summon, you banish one of those special summoned monsters and then also all monsters on the field with the same original type. Now this card is definitely accessible in Draco Tail, and I believe that it is actually run in most of these successful Draco Tail lists that I've seen running around over in the OCG. It's definitely something that's going to be really matchup dependent. It's probably not that strong against something like Ryzeal, but it could be really good against a deck like Malice. So it's probably going to be something that players will consider when they're building the deck here in the TCG and what the format looks like at that point. That said, Mysterion has two different printings. It was originally an ultra rare in Lightning Overdrive, and then it got a secret rare upgrade in one of the Battles of Legend sets. Fortunately, the card is still only $1 or $2, so really easily accessible if you just want to pick one up for your own use. I would definitely recommend grabbing at least a copy or two if you are planning on playing Draco Tail in the future, just in case. Just don't over invest in too many copies, as there's a really strong chance that the card could be included in Justice Hunters itself. And finally, we have Vitos, the Eruption Dragon of Extinction. So Vitos was a TCG exclusive for the Ashen Dark type, one that completely flopped and didn't do anything here in the TCG at all. However, the card has always had potential. This card has a quick effect that you can activate during the main phase, where you special summon this card to your opponent's side of the field and then pop a card in the field zone. Also, if it goes from your opponent's field to your graveyard, you get to blow up the board as well. Now here, the card has never actually seen any sort of competitive success. However, over in the OCG, this card was actually introduced in the World Premiere Pack in 2024, and it seems that some players are trying it out. Over on roadoftheking.com, they note that the card is a tech choice because of its ability to hit the field spells of the Vanquish Soul, Yummy, and Malice strategies, all of which are very, very good decks. Also, Vitos is a potential board wipe, so Vanquish Soul can use this card to hit your opponent's field spell, and then pop it with Raisin or Caesar Valius to blow up the board afterwards, so a couple of really interesting interactions. Now here, Vitos doesn't really see play, but because of the attention that the card is getting in the OCG, it's starting to trend upwards in price. It had fallen down to about the $7 to $8 mark, but with the sudden increase in demand, it has gone up to a little bit over $10 per copy. However, I do think that this price point is still cheap enough to where the card has potential to continue moving up. At one point, this card was $20 each based off of hype alone, so if the card starts to get some actual results, I could definitely see it climbing even higher. This card was in Phantom Nightmare, which technically means it's due to be reprinted in the 2025 tins, but also the thing we want to remember is that a lot of the time, these weaker TCG exclusive archetypes get overlooked and aren't included in the tins, and if that's the case, it could definitely cause Vitos to go up in price even further. This is just one that I feel like is worth noting, and if you guys feel that field spells could be a really key part of the way the next couple of top tier decks are going to play, you might want to grab yourself a playset of this card while it's still relatively cheap. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. Definitely a lot of smaller things that we talked about today, but because we have so many changes coming up within the next few months, there's so much that we have to keep in mind. That's a lot of opportunities for cards to be reprinted, right? So I don't want to recommend or talk too much about these high dollar cards that have the potential to go down. Rather, I want to talk about these cheaper cards that have the potential to go 3, 4, 5x in price because they're such lower risk, and you guys should be able to pick them up relatively easily. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.